Hi everyone and welcome back to Crash Test Airsoft and another very special build video. Today we're going to build the British Special Forces Colt Canada L119A2 assault rifle from a Tokyo Marui recoil M4 CQB-R. We're using the CQB-R because it's rear wired, and without a front handguard that we can house a battery in, we're going to be using the stock as our battery storage, so a rear wired gun makes more sense for this build. For those of you who follow my channel, you might have seen my L119A1 build video. If you haven't, go and take a look. It gives a little insight into the history of Damaco and now Colt Canada as of 2005 and their relationship with the MOD. In July 2013, the MOD issued a contract notice for a £2.8 million upgrade to the then aged L119A1 platform. None of us will ever really know the full reason for this upgrade. However, a modernised platform, more rail space, nicer ergonomics will have been the main factors. I would hasten to guess that it had to do with parts supply of the A1 and a renegotiation of our existing contract with Colt Canada also. What's special about the A2 is that it's an entirely Canadian-made receiver and handguard. What's also special about this gun is Colt Canada's successful purchase of the patent owned by LMT, Lewis Machine and Tool, for the manufacture and sale of an AR-15 based monolithic upper receiver. Now, what this means is the upper receiver and the front handguard are now one piece of continuous metal. This increases strength, rigidity, simplicity, and almost certainly reliability as well. What this also means is that the weapon, receiver, handguard and barrel all come from one manufacturer. This means Colt Canada are no longer relying on supply of the M4 RAS from Knights Armament, for example, which improves the economy of the supply chain. What the front M4 A-frame style sight being removed also means is the A2 now features a free floating barrel, which will improve accuracy hugely. So coming back to Airsoft, the British Special Forces having a new weapon system is obviously hugely desirable for UK Special Forces impressionists and British airsofters as a whole who want something entirely British based and current. This does, however, pose a problem. At the time of its success and fame, especially with a few photos which were publicised, if you can't get the correct receiver and rail as airsoft compatible parts, then obviously you're not going to be able to build a replica. That's where we got fairly lucky. Two UK Special Forces enthusiasts, Gaz from Red Wolf UK and Jay from Tyrannus blog, started mulling the idea of a system that could be made for reasonable money, but that would contain enough design innovation and build quality to be desirable to the airsoft market in large quantities. They wanted a two-piece design as opposed to a monolithic design, so that it would fit a variety of airsoft platforms, which would obviously increase desirability and sales. They approached various manufacturers, but ultimately Angry Gun were the most interested. Jay and Gaz supplied as much research material as possible on which Angry Gun could base a design. Prototypes were supplied to the boys, and they suggested changes and modifications until they're happy with the final product. So being a two-piece design, Angry Gun managed to hide the join really well. You can barely tell it's really there. So they went through several design phases, and once they got the nod from Angry Gun, this was obviously fantastic news, as Angry Gun makes some of the finest aftermarket airsoft parts available. So what we're going to do is give you a rundown of the parts required to build a Tokyo Marui recoil based L119A2 using the fantastic A2 style rail from Red Wolf UK and Angry Gun. I'll not show you the building process today, as there's many great videos available for the TM recoil already. So let's give you a rundown of the parts needed. The first and most important part you will need for your gun is the replica L119A2 rail from Angry Gun. It comes in two lengths, a short 9¼ inch rail suited for the 10.5 inch barrel and a long version for the 15.7 inch barrel. The rail is precision made from 6061 aluminium and is anodised in a matte black finish. The rail numbers are white laser etched afterwards, so can't wear or come off. The rail is secured via two hidden grub screws to a proprietary hardened steel barrel nut which comes with each rail. These screws are then hidden beneath the dummy grenade launcher lug on the bottom of the rail to provide a realistic and fully hidden mounting solution. The rail is machined to absolute perfection and mounts on the barrel nut with zero play or hindrance. These rails are released in large batches and sold in airsoft stores around the world, but be aware that you need to get your order in early as demand is still extremely high and they sell out very fast. So to produce an accurate airsoft replica of the L119A2, we're going to need to do quite a lot of work to both the upper and the lower receiver. I've again purchased a blank lower receiver from Laylac F factory to make this work a lot easier, trying to fill original Colt USA trademarks and then re-engrave over the top of them is not easy, and often it won't come out looking particularly good. Like the L119A1, the A2 is a far cry from a US made M4, and I'll run through these design changes now. Having the correct markings is essential when producing a replica of this type, and there are several different ones to be found on the A2. The first is the new Colt Canada logo found on the left side magwell. It's similar to the US version but features a little maple leaf above the letter T. Like the A1, L119A2 followed by 5.56mm is found below the logo, and this is followed by the unique serial number. Exactly as the A1, made in Canada under license from Colt Manufacturing Company, is found above the trigger, although roll stamped on the genuine firearm. I've had these sort of deep CO2 laser etched. The work to produce the tooling for roll stamping would be catastrophically expensive and not worth doing on an airsoft gun. The new to the A2 upper receiver is now the US patent number owned by LMT, and this is white laser marked above the magwell, just here. The model number of the monolithic IUR is now embossed below the Picatinny rail. Now, unless you're willing to machine an airsoft upper receiver yourself, this will have to be engraved instead, so it will be debossed as opposed to embossed. If we then turn this over, we can see that we've now got the TM trademarks and the keyhole markings have been filed off and replaced with the word NATO and a small square above the forward assist. The NATO serial number, or NSN, is white marked on the right side magwell, much like the A1. And like the A1, this doesn't change from gun to gun, but only denotes the NATO model number of the A2. You'll also need some machining work done to the upper receiver to get it right, and this consists of an extra rail slot here above the charging handle, and also a 45-degree ledge leading down to the charging handle itself. I'm guessing this is to streamline the rail so that your hand can navigate smoothly onto the charging handle when in use. Unlike the A1, we don't need a 45-degree taper at the front, because obviously our rail is going to slot onto there, and any engraving done on the front edge there will kind of highlight the fact that it's not a monolithic receiver. So those are the things that you'll need to do to the lower and upper receiver. You want to make sure you do them in the right order because the whole process is expensive, especially if you're getting the gun Cerakoted. You want to make sure that your white laser marking is done after the engraving and after Cerakoting, so that it will burn a white mark through the paint, and then the job's done. You don't need to do anything else to it. So what we'll do next is move on to the extra little bits which are found on the L119A2. So aside from the monolithic upper receiver and therefore free-floating barrel, the most significant upgrade to the L119A2 is actually full ambidextrous controls. Presumably it was an MOD stipulation that they wanted, full controls for left-handed shooters. So what they've done is they've upgraded several of the items, the first of which is the mag release here. This replica is made by G&P. It's the GP535, and it's a very, very accurate representation of the real firearm mag release. It simply activates from both sides, so you press the button here and then the normal button on the far side to release your magazine. If we turn the receiver over, What is also found now on the A2 is the fire selector switch. Now, producing an ambidextrous fire selector switch on the Tokyo Marui recoil range is sadly pretty much impossible. Because of the way the gearbox is designed, you can't put an axle through the middle of the gearbox to activate the lever on this side. So again, what I've done is I've gone online and purchased an aftermarket steel fire selector, and I've simply drilled and tapped into the dummy plastic selector indicator on the far right side of the receiver, and then I've just sort of secured it in place with a bit of Loctite. So this doesn't activate or move, but from a distance it gives the look that I'm after. The next thing that they upgraded was the charging handle. The original charging handle just came with the little clip there on the left-hand side. And what they've done is produced an ambidextrous arm, which means that you can activate the charging handle like this with your thumb and finger on the right hand side of the charging handle. This lever itself was produced by one of the guys on the forums, and they've shipped worldwide and made quite a few of them. If you go online you can search for them and purchase one yourself. They do fit on almost all Airsoft charging handles, but actually it needed a fair amount of modification to go on to the Tokyo Marui recoil one, whereby the little cutout where the spring goes needed to be kind of dremelled ever so slightly deeper to allow the spring to go in. On the lower receiver again, I've added a Magpul bad lever. Again, it's an ambidextrous control to enable you to activate the bolt release with your trigger finger as opposed to tapping the side of the gun with your left palm. This hasn't been officially photographed on the L119A2, but I've got them on all of my M4 guns just because they work really, really well, and you can activate the bolt release very fast, especially if you have a working bolt stop on say a gas blowback or the TM recoil. So that's quite a neat little design feature. It also continues the Magpul theme, which you will witness full bore a bit later on. There's a lot of Magpul components on these L119A2s. So there's our ambidextrous controls. What we also have is an ambidextrous sling loop. So this is the Magpul ASAP sling loop, and as you can see it's a moving bar, which means that your sling can move from side to side. I use an MS2 Magpul sling, so obviously it doesn't have QD mounts, so I don't need an ambidextrous QD mount bolted in the middle there. This is a genuine Magpul ASAP as opposed to a replica, and it does require work to get it to fit onto the Tokyo Marui recoil range. Namely, you need to grind the far sides of these lugs so that it will sit onto the receiver properly, and also you will need to file out the hole itself to make it fit over the larger stock tube thread. So again, lots of help on the forums with things like that. I think there's some of the chaps there will actually sell you one which have been pre-modified, so you can just buy it off them and pop it straight on. Likewise with the charging handle lever, you can buy those ready to go as well. Okay, the last bespoke part you're going to need is the correct gas block. Now, nobody actually kind of makes an L119A2 specific airsoft gas block, so as I say, you've got to use your imagination and kind of come up with it yourself. We do know that they use a low profile gas block which looks exactly like this. This one I purchased from an American airsoft store, and it's made by Lancer Tactical, I believe. What I then had to do is drill and tap a port on the front for the screw. I believe in real life that is for cleaning the gas tube, so you unscrew that and then you can put your pipe cleaners up the gas tube and clean that out. And then I bought a piece of 4.5mm threaded, unthreaded steel rod, and again made sure that goes in like that securely, and that gives the impression of the gas block that's found on the L119A2. So obviously a little bit of work, but if you can get an M4 tap and a piece of rod, I think I bought this from eBay for about £1.99, and the Lance Tactical gas block wasn't expensive. It was about £14 including postage. It's secured by 2 grub screws at the bottom, which again is accurate to the real one. And whatever you do, you must get a low profile gas block, otherwise it won't fit inside the handguard here. These corners will chafe and this will be too hot, too proud. As far as we know, there's no markings. Some people use other brands of these airsoft gas blocks, and some of them have ridge lines on the top. Now, I don't believe that the L119A2 gas block actually has those, so I was very happy to find this one because it's produced a really good replica. So moving on to foregrips and stocks, Magpul feature again very heavily on the L119A2. Both the ACS and the CTR stocks have been photographed in use on the A2, both in black and tan. The CTR does seem to be more common, and I prefer the overall look at it. We are using the CTR, not the CTR MOE, which is a cheaper version without the lock on the front, and the AFG2 angle foregrip is also fairly common, more common in black, but I like the tan theme, so I've decided to go with the tan one to match the stock. All the items I've used are genuine Magpul. However, you can get very good quality replicas sort of on eBay and various other places, which will give you the look you're looking for without having to spend sort of big money. What we've got down here is an extended, it's a 0.7 inch extended Magpul butt pad for the CTR. Now, what we've done with this, as you can see, is we've machined out the inside of the butt pad, and in there is going to house a LiPo battery for our Tokyo Marui build. There are a few people again on the forums who will sort of do this service for you, and that you just give them some money and they'll ship you a butt pad that's pre-made. I think some of them even supply them with genuine CTR stocks as well. We've all got our own different ways of doing things. I CNC machine mine out full length, so I have lost both screw mountings on mine, whereas some other people machine down 2/3 and put a smaller LiPo in, and retain the bottom screw. Now, the problem with that is you need to modify the back of the stock, and I'm not willing to take a Dremel to a real Magpul CTR stock because they're not cheap. So that's just my sort of personal preference and way of doing it. So to complete the look of the L119A2, you will need Magpul components, both the foregrip and the stock, but you can choose kind of which you choose and in which colour. We have seen a SOTMOD stock used on an L119A2, but we believe that was in training and testing. It wasn't used, sort of photographed in the field in use. The next item on your shopping list for your L119A2 is the PTS Ergo Replica Grip. This is a replica produced by PTS, who own the license to several kind of real firearm products. They're produced, I think, in Taiwan to a very high quality, and they produce models for both gas blowback and AEG weapons. Obviously, gas blowback, you don't need to store a motor in the grip itself. This one you do, so they've produced a fully adjustable motor plate, a machined brass adjustment screw, and all the screws you need to bolt it onto your gun. The original L119A2 is fitted with the Ergo Sure Grip, model number 4011. I assume this was chosen by Colt Canada because of its sort of ease of use. It's a very comfortable grip for all different hand sizes. If you've got small hands or big hands, it doesn't have any sharp corners, much like the original kind of Colt M4 grip, and it's very, very comfortable to hold, and it's very, very grippy even if your hands are sweaty. So it's a very good item. Sadly, the PTS Airsoft version, certainly in AEG and the tan colour, is extremely hard to find, so I'm afraid you're either going to have to wait for PTS to produce sort of new batches of them, or try and find one online second hand. There are replicas of the LMT grip, which is very, very similar, but it has a slightly more defined grip pattern on the front, and I think it's got LMT written on it, as opposed to this replica, which has Ergo written on it there, much like the original. Now, all L119A2s are found with this grip on, nothing else. So if you want an accurate replica, you're going to have to try and find one for your Tokyo Marui. So moving along to the business end of the barrel, there's a few options available to you. The flash hider and suppressor are available again by Angry Gun, and also a bespoke flash hider manufacturer on eBay, and you can get hold of both the SOCOM 556RC series suppressor and flash hider, and you can also get the FH556 216A flash hider, which is what I've got featured here on the end of the barrel. Both of these are perfectly acceptable replicas to be used on the British Special Forces weapons. There's no real preference. I don't know in what circumstances you'd use either. I'm not a professional marksman, but certainly the replicas are available for us to produce a high quality kind of replica L119A2. So in this instance, I use the FH556 216A flash hider on my A2, and then I run the SOCOM series 556RC with the suppressor on my L119A1. I just prefer the look of it on there. As I say, these parts are available. If you can't get hold of the Angry Gun SOCOM 556 series, there are a few other manufacturers out there. 5KU do one, but obviously the quality isn't quite the same as the Angry Gun. Also, you can have these parts made bespoke by people who are experts in milling and CNC. There's a few chaps on Facebook who can help you out with that. They will finish the barrel off and finish the gun off, so that we've got the look that we're after. So when you start looking at main optics for your L119A2, you can start to personalise the weapon sort of ever so slightly. But if you want to sort of keep an accurate replica of the weapon, it's probably best to use optics which have been seen sort of in theatre on the L119A2. At the moment, they include the Trijicon ACOG 4x32 scope, the Aimpoint T1, which I have here on the left, and the Aimpoint Comp M2 and M4 series. I generally use the ACOG for sort of longer range work, in skirmishing in the forest, things like that, and then for close-up CQB work I use my T1. Both of these scopes have genuine scope mounts. This is the Larue Tactical LT100. It's a quick release scope mount for the ACOG, and then on this one I use the quick release raised mount by GG&G. Now there were some problems finding a replica scope to go on the genuine mount. I'm not willing to spend real money on an Aimpoint T1. So what I've gone with is the Nuprol replica, which I think is called the Nuprol E1. Very, very high quality. It works perfectly. The machining is wonderful, and it really looks the part. I tried a knockoff by AIM and the GMP, and neither of them fit on the genuine mount. So make sure that when you buy your mount or you buy your replica scope, you make sure they're interchangeable and they do work. The Aimpoint T1 is quite common to see on the 10-inch variant of the L119A2, presumably because it's used by the Special Forces in kind of counter-terrorism situations. Rarely do you need 4 times magnification in kind of built-up urban areas. So because that's what I do with my A2, I decided to go with the Aimpoint T1, but obviously in the Nuprol replica form. These GG&G mounts are superb. They're genuine firearm products, and they're built to those kind of qualities. The quick release works perfectly on the Airsoft Picatinny rails, and you can move them around and chop and change them as you want. The eye relief on the ACOG is very, very poor, so the extra rail mount, the extra rail slot on the top of the upper receiver comes in handy, because you can pull the ACOG as far backwards as possible, to enable you to get kind of the eye relief you need, to be able to see anything out the scope. You need to be quite close to the reticle of the replica ACOGs to be able to see the picture. So these are my main battle optics. As I say, choose one that has been seen kind of in the wild. That will give your L119A2 build a little bit more realism, and what we'll do is we'll have a look at the electronic parts which I've fitted next. So the last two items we'll need to finish off our A2 build is an IR designator and a weapon light. The two items that are found on the genuine A2 are the Insight Technology ANPEQ15 LA5 variant IR designator, and the Surefire M620V Scout light. This particular IR designator is made by Element Airsoft. It's the EX276. What you need is the non-ultra high power variant. These can be distinguished by the lack of the initials UHP on the rubber activation switch. What this one also has is a reproduction sticker set to make it look like a British issue IR designator as opposed to a knockoff Chinese copy. These are available from Jay at Tyrannisblog, so if you drop him a line, he should be able to send you one of those. The Scout light again is an Element copy. It's the Element EX345 Scout light, which is a reproduction, as I say, of the M620V with the KM2 infrared head on it. Now this copy doesn't actually work in infrared mode, but if you rotate the bezel there to IR, it will act as a strobe. So sadly it's too expensive to have a full IR head on there. I've mounted mine to a genuine Surefire M93 quick release clamp. I found the reproduction clamp to be a bit flimsy and didn't really hold it secure. So both these items are regularly seen on the L119A2, and I recommend you get both of them. They're very cheap from AliExpress or Amazon, but as I say, make sure you get the model number of the reproduction correct, as opposed to what they're trying to represent. So as I say, this is the Element EX276 and this is the Element 345 EX345. So what we'll do is we'll pop these on the gun, and we'll show you what it all looks like assembled. And here we are. We've reassembled the gun. We've made modifications to parts that were required, things like dremeling out the ASAP plate at the back, and we've shimmed the barrel nut so that it's holding nice and firmly onto the outer barrel. We've shimmed the flash hider at the front so I can rotate the writing to the top, and also keep the slots at right angles. The gun is pretty much finished. Now, obviously, depending on what parts you put on yours, it will look slightly different. But I'll give you a few close-up views of some of the optional extras I've put on just to finish my build up. So the first part you'll see on mine, which you might not see on anyone else, is a set of backup iron sights. On the Colt Canada website, they've actually got some publicity shots of the L119A2, and it features some low-profile backup iron sights on their photo. Now, obviously, whether that's shipped to the MOD in this country is neither here or there. It doesn't sit well, the idea of me, your primary optic, especially if it's powered electronically, going down and you not being able to aim your weapon. So I run a set of Magpul MBUS Pros on my gun. These are genuine, they're not copies, and they work absolutely beautifully. All you have to do is remove the quick release clamp on the GG&G mount for the scope, flip the sights up, and you're away. And the same at the front, so I've just installed the IR designator with enough clearance to be able to get the front sight to flip up. And this is what it looks like with both sights flipped up with the primary optic removed. And to continue the Magpul theme and to work with my MS2 sling and the ASAP at the back, I've got a genuine Magpul ASAP sling loop on the front top rail there. And here we can see the main gun torch and IR designator installed. And there's the QD release for the torch and the AFG2 at the bottom. So we can have a closer look at the join on the rail. And as we can see, there is a gap there, but it's very, very well done. A few people have actually filled that gap with milliput and painted it, but I did want to be able to disassemble mine, and I didn't want to have to re-Cerakote everything, so I've left mine void. And last but not least, you will have noticed the colour of my gun. I wanted something a little bit different from everyone else's. There was a photograph that was seen of an L119A2, which turned out to be a training weapon. It was heavily used, and the black anodizing had worn off so badly that it appeared dark grey as opposed to black. And I thought it'd be really nice to have a dark grey gun. So this one has been fully Cerakoted in SIG dark grey. It can appear lighter and darker in different lights, but I think it really gives it a nice professional look, and as I say, it's something very different from other L119A2s that you'll see. This work was done by FMJ Firearms in Cornwall, and Mark there is superb with a spray gun and does a very nice job of Cerakoting, as you can see. So thanks for tuning in. I hope this video has been informative. Please excuse the delay in making it. Obviously, getting hold of all these real firearm parts, you know, from various places, including abroad, takes a lot of time. Plus, you know, waiting on very skilled, clever engineers to do a lot of the machining and the CO2 laser engraving work. Not to mention the Cerakote job. Again, you know, takes time. You have to wait for them to be able to fit you into their busy schedule. But I'm extremely pleased with the result. I can firmly recommend the Tokyo Marui as a base for these guns. You know, you've got the recoil mode and you've got the working bolt release there, which adds to the realism. All of the parts are interchangeable. The Picatinny rail is perfectly machined, so all of the optional extras fit on there. There's a few things which, you know, had to be done. The ASAP plate we've mentioned. I had to shave a tiny amount of plastic off the front of the ergo grip so that it didn't foul on the lower receiver before it had fully, you know, bedded home on the screws on the gearbox. I recommend you do the same. There shouldn't be any interference between the grip and the lower receiver. It should contact only the gearbox. And yeah, it shoots well. I've upgraded this one with an M100 spring from Eagle 6 Airsoft, and I've also got an edgy barrel, a 6.05mm edgy barrel, and Prometheus hop. I find those two upgrades are ample. They're all that's needed, especially in the UK with our restrictions on FPS. Any questions, please leave them in the box below, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. I'll endeavour to get more build videos up online soon. Thanks again, guys. Bye.